Wes is kind of creepy. Going to another city just to meet an unknown person, very Sleepless in Seattle-ish, and we also know, obviously, it's very much giving You've Got Mail. And maybe this is a theme in rom-coms, and it's like, what is the line between, okay, it's just a movie, it's not that serious, and are we perpetuating men to follow women? I don't know. I prefer Jill and Wes to be friends at the ending. No! No! Now, there's a lot of hot takes in this post, but I am going to be pulling the ones about the characters and the development and the relationships, because I just don't believe in giving a voice and a platform to people who are just gonna crap on movies, because there's so much courage that it takes for a production team to release a movie. And as somebody who's pursuing the entertainment industry, that's just not the energy that I feel like would help any of us here. Someone says, I'm annoyed by the You've Got Mail comparisons. This is clearly Sleepless in Seattle territory. Guys, I've never seen Sleepless in Seattle, and I feel like I need to go watch it. Does anyone else think that her dessert nachos looked mid? She's a trained culinary dessert chef, but she doesn't even make her own ice cream. The tacos looked better. I like the idea of dessert nachos for sure. I'm like a sweet and salty gal, so there's no issue with that for me. I think this is one of those things where it's like, it's not that deep. This was something that her and her sister did together. Like, I feel like there's this sweet and salty dynamic between her and her sister, where her sister is very sweet and she's very funny and supportive, whereas she has all these like salty experiences where she's like, my teacher in culinary school sucked, these guys I'm dating suck. So I think there's just some like cute little symbolism in there, and also the fact that like it was when they were young. Like when I was young, I watched iCarly and I wanted to have spaghetti tacos more than anything. Do they look delicious? No, but it's kind of just the concept of saying like, hey, I went to a food truck to get dessert nachos, and people are like, whoa, dessert nachos. Like that's like half of it right there. It's just the idea that something like that exists. Now, IC Representative 314 says, I found the pacing to be strange. So much time spent on her culinary career and her dates prior to meeting Nick Robinson's character, but not a ton on his backstory or the actual love story. I, for some reason, like wasn't really needing that personally. Like I felt like those scenes at the beginning where they both had a bad relationship like experience was enough for me. It reminds me also of Friends with Benefits with Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake, where they're both having these experiences like, oh gosh, another relationship down the drain. That's kind of what this was. I feel like it just had to set us up to be like, all right, their love life, not doing very well. Got it. This is where they are emotionally. Like, they're not in these long-term relationships. They don't have this like partner that is now going to be a blocker to them getting together later on in the movie. They're both like, I'm swearing off men or women. Suspicious Regret 620 goes, just complaining about anything. JFC, it's a rom-com. Yeah, someone else says, this is a great representation of grief plus falling in love while not taken literally. And I think that's a really beautiful point as well, that like there is this combination of, okay, you could be mourning someone, but also something else is coming along. When one door closes, another opens. This is something that happened with me and my fiance, actually. I met him right when his dad passed away. And so it was this weird feeling of like, oh my gosh, like this one door closes and this other door opens, and there's grief, but there's also love and connection and opportunity. And I love that it's showing those nuances. Yeah, Kim Bastern says, we want 90s rom-com, but do you think you're prepared for 90s rom-com? Are you willing to just suspend belief and live in the moment? And that is a part of it that like, we obviously don't want to have to suspend the belief so much that it's unrealistic. There's definitely movies and shows that I've seen where I'm like, okay, like, that just feels so not believable. For me, the acting is really, really important, that it has to be really truthful. And in this movie, gosh, it was so good. I love both of them so much. I thought it was so truthful. I love Zoe Deutsch. I've loved her for years. And Nick Robinson, I remember seeing him in Maid. And so immediately when he came up on the screen, I was like, oh my God, the last time I saw you was with Mark Qualley years ago. Love this for you. Like, such a different character. And Nora DeLuca says, yeah, agree with some of this, but rom-coms are built on cliches and tropes. I think it's to be expected. And that's the thing, like, we think about Hallmark movies, this whole idea of like, oh my gosh, they're terrible, but like they're great because they're terrible. Like there's this whole idea that like, oh my gosh, they're cheesy, but we love them, but they're cheesy. Like, I think that's a similar thing. Rom-coms, Hallmark movies, they're templatized, and templates are not bad. You just can't compare a rom-com like this to like a Yorgos Lanthimos movie like Poor Things or Begonia. Like, those are completely different movies. There is not really a template that is obvious, at least, with those movies. They rely so much more on a very different type of story. But when we're looking at rom-coms, whether we're gonna complain about it, not complain about it, like, we are all expecting the characters to be together at the end. And that was another thing that this poster said. I think they should have just been friends at the end. Like, then don't. You know it's a rom-com. You know it's a rom-com. Don't watch it if you just want them to be friends. There's some thoughts too about how there were a lot of like Gen Z moments infused into this. There's a lot of trending topics like independent woman movement, trashy alpha male dating podcast. And for some people, they're thinking like it might be too much. Like, I felt like it worked. I do think that there is that interesting trope that I'm seeing that like it's kind of hard for me to get behind is like, I'm swearing off men. Like, I guess that's the only thing that's kind of getting in the way of two people not being together. And I wouldn't say it's like the strongest reason why they won't be together. I mean, but again, this is a rom-com. This isn't like the Capulets and the Montagues where you will literally like probably get killed if you see that you're with the other person. Like, this is a rom-com in the modern era. Like, I do love a good movie or show where there's something very strategic about like why they can't be together. Like, there's like a workplace rule and I literally, I can't be with you or else I'm gonna get fired from this job and I need this money so that I can put my grandma in a home. Sometimes just the I'm swearing off men, I'm swearing off women feels a little bit like, okay, but you could just change your mind, There was another part in the OP's post, like, I didn't think that like the sex scenes were necessary. It's a rom-com, like you need at least one. Like, this is the part of the template that it's like, then don't see it. Like, don't see it. If you know there's gonna be a sex scene, they're gonna end up together at the end, and like 20 minutes before it ends, there's gonna be like this big argument. And other people are saying like, sex is part of a romantic relationship. I fail to see the issue. This isn't a Hallmark movie. And that's the thing. It's like, going into movies, you also just need to understand like, okay, where am I at right now? I'm not expecting a movie that's gonna like break all the boundaries of what a rom-com is. Like, there are certain templates that work, and that's fine. Like, that's fine. It's okay. There's a reason why they work, because psychologically we love them. There's also like a trust and comfort factor of knowing that you're gonna see a rom-com. I mean, like, raise your hand if you've seen a rom-com more than once. That's the whole thing, is like, you're like, I'm gonna turn on my 13 going on 30. I wanna have a good day today. Let me turn on my favorite rom-com. People have a favorite rom-com because they go to it over and over again because it's safe, it's predictable. Now, another poster says, this movie is an emotional roller coaster. I cried numerous times, laughed, and then cried a little more. Sure, the script gets a bit formulaic at times, and you can tell where it's going, but it's an excellent movie, and in my opinion, it's probably the romance movie of 2026. The casting is excellent, and the pace of the movie is good. It doesn't drag at any point. Nick Offerman is entertaining as the chef, and Zoe Deutsch was excellent in the lead role. It's definitely worth the watch. It's nobody's fault that a rom-com script is formulaic, because that is what makes it a rom-com. It's like saying a pancake recipe is too formulaic. Yes, because if you use different ingredients, it ain't gonna be a pancake anymore. And I didn't notice the first watch around, but Isabelle dancing right behind Jill in the last scene in the slow motion bit to Dancing on My Own, I had to go back and watch that again. Well, that was my excuse for just watching the entire movie again. But I saw scenes online that were showing this and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. I wish it was like a little bit more obvious that like she was her essence as opposed to just another person dancing behind her. I don't know how that would have been portrayed, but maybe it would have been more obvious to me because I totally missed it. But I'm so glad other people caught it, and I love that nod so much. And someone goes, my wife is literally just about to sit and watch it after I described it as a fun international rom-com. I feel reading your post, I may have led her astray. I don't even want to get into It Ends With Us, but I know that was a big part of it, where it was being advertised that it was like this fun rom-com when it really wasn't, but we ain't gonna go there. We ain't gonna go there. I love that Zoe Deutsch and Nick Robinson are like childhood friends too. That makes me so happy. Someone says, I liked it, and maybe I'm reading too much into it for a rom-com, but I didn't like that he or she didn't acknowledge it was a total invasion of privacy. Firstly, listening to all those voicemails and then keeping that from her for weeks. How can you trust someone after that? Wow. Well, that was the whole thing though. Like, when she realized he was listening to the voicemails, she stopped talking to him. So that was why they stopped talking. I don't know if this person is saying like there should have been more action being taken. Like, again, I don't even go that far with movies like this because I'm like, it's a rom-com. It's fine. Now I do other show breakdowns. I've been doing some girls breakdowns on my channel, and those I like to dive into a little bit more because it is not a rom-com. It is a very ultra hyper realistic show. The line between like, are we promoting this or are we just saying that it's something that happens, can be very thin sometimes. Here's one of the videos that you can take a look at if you want to dive into that next. And by the way, my name is Kira, this is Studio Violet, and we do whimsical pop culture commentary. If you like things like that, go ahead and hit subscribe and like this video if you're enjoying it so far. I would love to see you around and talk more about our favorite movies and television shows. I do want to touch on one that's saying, I'm really glad that this movie spent around 20 to 30 minutes to convince us about Jill and Isabel's sisterhood. I think that worked because it made Jill less one-dimensional and easy to root for throughout the movie. I agree, and I think it just kind of depends on what the rom-com is. I was just watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp yesterday, and I was realizing as I was going through it, I want to say it was like at least 20 or 30 minutes into the movie, and we don't even really get to the chocolate factory yet. We're setting up with like where Charlie is and how he's gonna put his family first and how his family's really struggling, but he's always gonna help them. And his dad got fired from the toothpaste factory because they started getting so much money because kids were eating a lot of candy because they wanted the golden ticket, so they were buying a lot of toothpaste, that they were able to invest in a robot and he lost his job. Like, we needed all of the setup. Equally, I started watching Matilda, and my fiance had seen the musical version of Matilda, but he did not see the one in the early 2000s directed by Danny DeVito. It was a very similar thing where like the first 20 minutes, we just have Matilda like pranking her parents and she's putting like bleach or like glue and something of her dad's hair. And in the musical, I feel like we go into the school so quickly, but it just goes to show you like in certain movies, you just need to set it up a little bit more. In the musical, the music, I think it kind of makes sense when there's a lot more kids and there's a lot more kid numbers in Matilda. And so that's why in the movie musical, I feel like it goes right into, you know, the school very fast. Whereas for this, that doesn't have music, it kind of does need to anchor a lot of the things of like, okay, first the parents were really bad, but then she finally was able to get an education, but then she had to go to school, and like this was all needed. So for this movie, I feel like especially to pull on your heartstrings, we really needed that sister-sister relationship. And I love how we spent the time with them as kids when she would be at the dances and she would call her sister and she would do the dance, and then bringing it up to today where, you know, they would talk about the same things, boys, but it was just a little bit more mature. Yeah, and someone else says they reference You've Got Mail actually in the movie, so they're clearly aware of this. And I love in the movies where they are very self-aware that they're like, this is cheesy, like this is, you know, I love it, especially in modern day ones. I feel like it would almost be a little bit unrealistic if they didn't address it in the movie where you're like, come on, someone has to say that this is like so clearly You've Got Mail. So I love that they reference that and they're like, you're not Tom Hanks. I thought that was so cute. And someone goes, I know I love this movie because I was able to ignore the fact that this man stalked her from across state lines, approached her alone in a remote location at night, and then used personal information to disarm her. And someone goes, what's a rom-com without extremely questionable behavior? To be fair, he didn't know who she was or what was happening for a long while. He was getting random voicemails and slowly became charmed by her personality, but not in a creeper way. Yeah, you would even see when she would say, like, I went back out with this guy, and he was like, no, don't do it. He's just rooting for her. I don't think he was like, I need to find this woman because I need to marry her. I think he was charmed. I think that's a perfect word to describe it. He should have told her immediately though, and it annoyed me about how many times he couldn't but didn't. But you know, rom-coms always need that third act drama. Exactly. And I mean, it's like, have you ever been in a situation where you're like, oh my God, I need to tell someone something so bad, and you saw him when he was over and he was in the bathroom and he's trying to hype himself up and he's like, just say it, just say it, just say it, and then he finally says it and she's asleep, and it's just like, okay, was that a sign? Was that a sign that I should wait? You know you have to do something, but you're also like, but do I? But do I? And sometimes the universe feels like it gives you signs that maybe I don't. I enjoyed this more than I expected. I think they did really well developing the sister relationship early on, so the voicemails hit harder emotionally. Yeah, exactly. Nick Offerman was a fun addition too. I'd rewatch it. I do wish there was a little bit more to Nick Offerman's character. That was the one thing where I'm like, I like that she had her comeuppance at the end, that he was being an a-hole, but I'm the type of person where I just want everyone to be good, and I kind of wish that at the end it was like, I'm sorry, I'm just like trying to live up to my expectations and like impress my mother who, is really hard on me and blah blah blah. And then it's like, oh, okay, now he's nice. I don't know. I always like stuff like that. Like I wish there was a little bit more backstory to him. Then it goes into, oh my gosh, this movie's like 2.5 hours, and I totally get like why there might not have been. Nick Offerman is so great and talented. I just like automatically am like, I want more. And someone says, a little corny, but still so cute. The chemistry between the two was so believable and wild, and you can really feel it. What's a rom-com without a little stalking, right? Which is like, I don't want to glorify that. I don't ever want to glorify stalking, obviously. But if we want to talk about really scary stalking, we can go and watch some true crime, right? If we just want to talk about, oh my gosh, okay, wow, that was crazy, we're going to watch a rom-com. Someone else has a little bit of a different perspective on the characters. I know people are framing this as a cute little love story that made them cry. Am I the only one that finds this weird and creepy? Says Fruity Tooty. I know it's a movie, but are we overlooking the fact that he violated her privacy for a long time, stalked her, and bamboozled his way into her life based on the vulnerable information he gathered about her? The voicemails were part of her healing process, and he made it about himself and his desires. Like, the sensible thing to do would be to call her back and let her know that the numbers have been transferred to him instead of listening to her voicemails. He saw a grieving, vulnerable person and preyed on her situation to insert him into her life and make himself Mr. Nice Guy. This is not a love story. This is stalking and manipulation. Reminds me of the police officers who see attractive women in the gym, and then they use police database to run their plates and find their address and start stalking them in hopes of dating them. The voicemail situation has happened to people in real life when they reach out to their dead relative, but the number's been transferred to someone else. Can you imagine showing up to places you go to and monitoring your activities because they've been listening to your voicemails? Someone goes, it's because he's hot. If he wasn't, it would be considered creepy. And I definitely feel like there's a huge part of that for rom-coms. Like, if it was anyone else, you'd be like, call the police immediately. But because you're like, oh, well, he's easy on the eyes. Someone says, I was creeped out by the bench thing. Why they thought it was okay to show her going solo to a dark, secluded park in the first place set me on edge. Then to have a scene where he shows up and she stays to talk just made it worse. Someone says, I second this. I don't want men seeing this movie and thinking women would find this interaction cute. Now, this is the thing, like, how many men are watching this, like, without women, though? Like, how many straight men are saying, you know what I'm going to watch tonight? I'm going to watch Voicemails for Isabelle by myself. I don't know. I feel like men would be the first ones to be like, that, please never go by yourself alone with someone. I know my fiance would be like, hey, you know that what she did, that's like really dangerous, right? Obviously, I'm thinking of only good men. There's many awful men in the world, obviously. But I just don't know how many men are like watching this by themselves and being like, okay, this is how I get a woman. You know, I feel like those creepy men are looking at other creepy men and doing creepy things. Someone says, with different music cues, editing, and pacing, this could easily be a horror movie about a cute but relentless stalker. And someone goes, season 6 of You. I haven't watched You because I don't like the idea of like glorifying someone who's hot that's stalking someone. Now, am I saying I love this movie? Yeah. So like, sound off in the comments if you're like, Kira, you hypocrite girly. That's okay. Say that to me. It's fine. I can take it. I might cry a little, but I'll take it. To be fair, I have not tried You. So I'm actually writing it off before even trying it. So you know what? I should probably give it its fair chance before even saying that. And I think the awareness of saying like, hey, that was a cute rom-com. That's also, there are many things that probably shouldn't be done in real life. Like if you told somebody this is how I met my husband, they'd be like, are you sure? He doesn't have a record. Can we check together? And someone says, I'm sitting here actually struggling to find a rom-com where one of the protagonists wouldn't be arrested in real life. Every one of these films has someone stalking, manipulating, power dynamics, etc. I think the problem is dating in real life is a mess. The other Netflix rom-com I'm thinking of is the Catfish one with Nina Dobrev, which is called Love Hard, and I love that movie so much. It's so funny and so cute. Basically, the plotline is Nina Dobrev is on a dating app and she matches with this guy and she's like, oh my God, you're so hot. Somehow she finds his address and she's like, I'm gonna surprise you for the holidays and fly out because we've been like talking all the time and falling falling asleep to each other's voices, comes to realize she goes to his house and this is not the same guy. This is actually a guy who took a picture of like his friend or his cousin who is a lot conventionally hotter than him. She has been catfished. And because it is like a town in the middle of nowhere, she can't really get a flight back out very easily. And then they basically form a deal where he's like, can you just tell my parents that we're dating so they get off my back about women and I will help you get this other guy? And obviously twists and turns and antics happen and it's just so cute and I watch it every year. This is the thing, is that the stakes need to be a little high. The stakes need to be a little bit crazy. If it was just Jane texted John and then John ghosted her for 2 months, no one's gonna care. And this is the thing. Someone else says, how is she able to afford that apartment in San Fran of all places with her salary? No shade, but SF is crazy expensive. You just gotta suspend the belief. I mean, how did Jessica Day afford to live in that LA loft when she was a teacher? And someone says, have you no whimsy? And that is such a good punctuation of all of this. When you come into a rom-com, you just gotta put on your whimsy hat. You just gotta go along for the ride and be like, okay, all right, that happened. Is that realistic? Probably not, but was it really cute? And do I believe the actors? Yes. And I do feel like the direction, I mean, I wasn't on set, so I personally can't attest to like how the direction was, but from a viewer standpoint, I felt like the direction was really nice. I feel like all of the actors were given permission to play and be themselves and be silly and further the story in their own light, because ultimately, like, there's never an empty role. It's always going to be filled by the actor, right? And the actor might change things about themselves to fill that role, but once the casting director finds that actor, they're like, this is it. This is the role. It looked to me like they were having a lot of fun and a lot of freedom. Now, if you want to hop onto a little bit more of a realistic perspective in television with girls, go ahead and watch this next video. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and I will see you there. Bye.
You always